Lisa. So I have had the most fun weekend in Cottonwood. Some of you all met my dog out there, Theo. We came up for the weekend on Friday and we've just had the best time eating tons of good food. We went hiking around Dead Horse. Theo, who is not one for swimming, actually got into the river a little bit. So that was really cool to see. And on Friday night, we went to a concert at Main Stage. And one of my favorite bands was playing, Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers. And there's this line in one of their songs that always sticks with me every time I hear it. It goes like this: let's keep it simple now. Don't confuse your wants with your needs. Believe in love. Forsake your greed and give away what you want to receive. Give away what you want to receive. Do you know how hard it is to say that without singing the song? So I love that line, give away what you want to receive, because it's a paradox, isn't it? If I want to receive something, that means I don't have it yet. So how can I give away something that I don't have? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And today we are starting a series that we're going to carry through all of September called Becoming Unlimited. So this month is all about recognizing our abundance and our prosperity in every area of our lives. So today I'm talking about give away what you want to receive. Next week, you're going to hear from Reverend Mindy Tucker, who is probably new to most of you. She is the co-minister at Unity of Mesa, and she's one of my mentors, and I actually took all of my prosperity classes through her. So she has a great prosperity consciousness to share with you. And then the week after that, I'm going to be back talking about the mindset of abundance. And then you're going to have Rev Linda Johnson the week after that, sharing her take on abundance and prosperity. And then I'll be back again that last Sunday in September to wrap up this whole series. So I hope you really enjoy it. And I hope that we all take the month of September to grow in our prosperity consciousness. All right, so to prepare for a month of prosperity, a month of becoming unlimited, the first thing we have to talk about is money, right? So normally when we hear the words prosperity or abundance, money is the very first thing we think of, right? So we have to understand from a spiritual perspective what money really is. You see, long ago, and still today in some parts of the world, the way that we traded, the way that we engaged and got the things that we needed was through trade, right? If I had cows, I would have milk. And if you were great at sewing, you would have clothes. You needed milk, I needed clothes. We would do a little trade. But then communities got bigger and things got a little more complicated, and we had governments that wanted to tax us. And so we needed to come up with a new scenario. And so that's where money came into the picture. So money at its essence just is a symbol for an exchange. It's a symbol for what I have received and what I now give to receive. It's this flow and this circulation. I actually looked up the rules because I thought that it might be illegal to write on money, but I wasn't sure. So I looked it up. It's not. But it is illegal to burn or destroy money in the United States. And that's because it takes it out of circulation. And that circulation is so important. So from a spiritual perspective, the importance of money is really just that it is a symbol of an exchange or a flow of energy. Because money itself doesn't really do anything, does it? Reverend Edwin Gaines, Unity Minister, says money is a means to an end, not the end itself. You cannot eat money, and it cannot keep you warm or cuddle you at night. Simply having money is not the goal. The goal is to use it. So money becomes, from a spiritual perspective, the way that we channel our thoughts, the way that we channel our energy into something that we believe in. So money is not the end itself. It is a symbol for what we're really after. Now, the problem with money becomes that it's so tangible that we get lost in the symbol itself instead of the consciousness that it represents. If you have $1 and I have $1 and I give you my dollar, well, now I have 0 and you have 2, right? And so money becomes this symbol where we think, well, you either have it or you don't. There are haves and there are have-nots, and it's always better to have. And by giving you something, it's taking it away from me. That's scarcity consciousness. That says that that flimsy piece of paper that means nothing, that I can't eat and that can't keep me warm at night, means something that it doesn't. So scarcity consciousness says if I give you something, it takes away from me. Abundance consciousness says that as I give, so I receive tenfold. Think about all of the things that you can give away that not only don't take from you, but actually provides more to you. Like our songs today. If I give you love, did I lose any love? No. And probably both of us are all the richer for it. If I give away a smile, do I no longer have my smile? Right. And maybe that smile that I gave you, you then give to somebody else. And now what was one smile becomes 10 or 20 or 30. So we can't get lost in the symbol of money thinking that it is finite, that you either have it or you don't. And when I give it, it takes from me. We have to remember that money is just that symbol of energy, that symbol of our consciousness that we direct into the world where we want it to go. And it is not limited. Everything we give away comes back to us tenfold. This is called in unity the law of circulation, or the law of giving and receiving. It says that you reap what you sow, what you give, you receive. A divine law that's talked about in the Bible. What you give out into the world, you get back. There's a section in the gospel where Jesus's disciples are being sent out to do the things that Jesus had done. So Jesus is telling them, go out and heal the sick, raise the dead, cast out demons. You've seen me do all these things. Now you go do them. And the words he said are, freely you have received, now freely give. Freely you have received, now freely give. There's two things that I think are really interesting about that. Number one is that this is not a one-for-one exchange. Jesus isn't saying, well, John, I cast out that demon in you. Now you go cast out a demon in another person, right? It's not this one-for-one. I did this for you. You go do this exact same thing for somebody else. So that's interesting. The other piece that is interesting to me is the order. It's not go freely give so that you may freely receive, is it? No, it's freely you have received. Now freely give. The receiving comes first. Now, what had they received? Well, the disciples received a lot of things, depending on how you look at it. You could look at it from a lack consciousness. And you could say, well, they didn't receive much of anything. They had to leave their homes, maybe their spouses and their children. They wandered for days. They probably went hungry sometimes. Sure, some people let them sleep in their homes or gave them food. Sure, they saw Jesus do some cool things, but really they gave up their entire lives. That's lack consciousness. Abundance consciousness says, look at all that they were blessed with. Seeing that when they put God first, that everything they need comes their way. How blessed are they to witness that? Freely they have received the gift of life itself. Freely they have received all the food and nourishment, not only the intellectual and mental and spiritual nourishment, but true, tangible body, physical nourishment. They probably had their minds blown on a daily basis being with Jesus, don't you think? All of these lessons that they've learned, all of these shifts in consciousness that they experienced by bearing witness to what he did. That is what they received. And so freely you have received, now freely give is a recognition of all of the abundance that we have already experienced in our lives. And from that consciousness of how blessed we are, That is how we give. Freely you have received, now freely give. So giving is putting the law into action. In unity, when we talk about principle number 1, the one presence, one power, active as the universe and as my life, God, the good, omnipotent, we recognize God as a spiritual law, as a principle that is in effect all the time for everybody, not picking and choosing, but always constant. And so one of those constants is laws. So giving is starting that law of circulation, giving and receiving that law that what you put out into the world comes back to you. Giving is how we put that law into action. If we are hoarding, holding tight to our money, saving it up for a rainy day, that says that in our consciousness, we are afraid of the rain. And we think that when it comes, we better be prepared. When we hold on to furniture or trinkets or clothes, thinking that, oh, I might need it someday, that means that we fear that one day, a day will come when we do not have what we need. So by giving, we are putting the law into action. We are putting our trust and our faith in the divine to be our source of good in whatever form it comes. Giving is a way that we can practice loosening the grip that fear has on us. In Hebrews 11:1, it says, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." So giving is an act of faith. Faith that God as our source will always provide our every need. And that when we put our trust and our faith in the divine, that we will be provided for. And when we come from the recognition that we have already been provided for so much, then we can give with that joyous and grateful heart. So one definition of faith, believing without seeing, right? But sometimes do we kind of need to see it to believe it? Just me? Sometimes we do, right? So when faith struggles, when your faith is struggling, the way that you build faith is to take action as if it were true and see the results. So let me share with you this verse from the Hebrew Bible. It's from Malachi. And I'm going to read the whole thing and then we're going to break it down metaphysically. It says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it." Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. Now, the word that we translate in English into tithe, more literally in Hebrew, means first fruits. So the ancient people, the way that they would worship their God, the way that they would provide for their God, is they would bring the first fruits of their harvest to the temple. The first fruits belonged to Spirit. Now think about that. You're a farmer. Your whole livelihood, all of your abundance, all of your good, the way that you eat, the way you get clothes for your family and shoes on your feet and have shelter, all depends on your harvest. Let's call it grapes because it was the Mediterranean. So let's say they're harvesting grapes. Your grapes are so important. And whether you have a good year or a bad year determines how your year is going to be, right? But the concept of a tithe is not that you give from your overflow. It's that you give the very first. So think about this as it relates to your budgeting. Do I get a check and I think, well, I need to put aside this much for my mortgage and this side for insurance and this goes to food and this, oh, and if there's a little left over, that can go to spirituality. that can go to spirit. That can be to spread goodness in the world. And the difference between that and giving a tithe, the first fruits, giving to God first. So bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. Metaphysically, the storehouse is our consciousness. So if we look at this whole sentence, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse that there may be food in my house. What it is saying is that you bring the very first thing you do is dwell in spirit. The very best of you bring into your consciousness and align with the divine so that your spiritual nature may be nourished. That is the first thing we do. You see, it's interesting. They say that if you don't have time to meditate every day, or you don't have time to pray every day, that you should pray twice a day, meditate twice a day. Because somehow, when I'm so busy that I think I don't have time, when I sit down and meditate, somehow I have all the time that I need to get everything done. So bringing the whole tithe, bringing the first fruits into the storehouse that there may be food in my house is saying exactly that. That when we put God first, when we put our spiritual life first and work on our consciousness of abundance, that there will be plenty. Then I love this next line, test me in this. The only place in the Bible where a personified God, which we'll allow, the only place in the Bible where God says, test me. Put it into action and see what happens. If you're not sure about this whole abundance, prosperity thing, God is my source, if you're not sure about it, the faith just isn't there. That's okay. We build faith by taking action. And the Lord says, test me in this. There's a lot of names for God in the Bible, and this one that we translate to Lord Almighty in English is sometimes called the Lord of Hosts. And what that specific name means, what it's talking about, is the divine's creative power, which is also in you, to make something out of nothing. So this whole line about abundance and how it will be realized, the floodgates of heaven will be opened. There will be so much that you have nowhere to even put it by putting spirit first. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about more about this mindset of abundance and the consciousness of prosperity. And we're going to get even deeper into this and look at how it actually works. But for now, I want to encourage you to think about giving away what you want to receive. So how do we do that? Well, first we recognize that what we want to receive, we've got to know what it is. Because it's easy to say, I want more money, but what do you want the money for? Do you want the money to be able to have more time to pursue other hobbies? Well, then what you want is to pursue those hobbies, to build something, to do something, to put good into the world. If you want money because you think maybe you could get a hot babe with some money, what you're really looking for is love, right? If you want money so you can take your friends out to lunch, then what you're looking for is connection and companionship. So giving away what we want to receive first starts with recognizing what it is we really want. And then once we have that recognition of what it is that we really want, now we recognize that anything we desire is already ours. We can recognize that we have freely received. So now we freely give. I want love in my life, and so I recognize all the ways that love shows up in my life and has shown up already. Love is inside me, and I give my love freely, and that is how I receive. So here's a few ways to put this law of giving and receiving into action. Number one has to do with money, and that's our tithing or mindful spending. Recognizing that our money is energy and that where we give our money is important. Are we giving it to organizations and companies that reflect our values, or are we just buying the cheapest thing out there and not worried about the way that company manufactures that good, how taxing that good may be on the environment, how they treat their employees? Are we using our money to just get the cheapest thing? Or are we being mindful in how we're spending, supporting companies and buying goods that will last for a long time, supporting companies that treat people right, that put goodness back into the world, that do things well? And on the same piece of that is tithing or giving. Can we build up enough faith to not give from our overflow, but to give first? To trust that as I put out into the world, I will receive, and I will allow my money to bring more goodness and love and joy and peace into the world, knowing that I will have what I need when I need it, and it will all come back to me. That's one way to build our faith in the law of circulation. Another is to give our time. So just like when we take time to meditate or pray, we paradoxically find that we end up having just as much time as we need anyways, that it never took anything from us. The same is true when we give our time to whatever fills our heart. So you can give your time into meditation and prayer. You can also give your time into local charities and local nonprofits that might need your services or that you feel passionate about. So as you start giving your time freely and joyfully, see how that comes back to you. Another way we can give what we want to receive is through our words and our actions. Holding the door open for someone, smiling at a stranger, writing a thank you note to somebody that you really appreciate but haven't expressed it to. So finding ways through our words to give away what we want to receive. All right, so to give away what we want to receive, just a little recap. We recognize first that money is a symbol of the transfer of energy. Money itself is not the goal. It is the conduit. It is the way that we experience our good, and it is not limited because God is not limited. The law of circulation tells us that what I put out there, I receive back tenfold. And so giving is putting the law into action. It teaches us that everything in the universe operates in this continuous dynamic flow. It's not just about money, it's about energy and love and time and our talents and our blessings that we share with the world, knowing that it comes back to us. Just like blood must circulate in our body to nourish us, our good must circulate. We must give and receive. All right, I need a volunteer. All right, come on up here, Eleanor.
Oh, all right.
Pays to volunteer, doesn't it? Will you make sure that everybody gets $1?
Yes.
Don't forget to grab one for yourself. And if there's any extras, you can just put them back by Jacob. Does anyone want to help Eleanor out? All right, well, she's passing those out. I need one more volunteer. Come on up here, Susie. Now, I don't know if there's one enough for everybody, but will you make sure at least every row has one of those?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
My wife got $2.
Oh. Look, you've already received some unexpected money today. How nice. Make sure Susie gets one too. Oh, here, I've got some. All right, so everybody's got your $1. I want you to go ahead and hold it in your hand. Does anybody raise your hand high if you don't have $1? Okay, I think we got it, Eleanor. Thank you. You just set them there. All right, and everybody's gonna have a marker, or every row at least is gonna have a marker. So before we do anything with that, we're gonna hold that $1 in our hands. And go ahead and close your eyes. And take a moment to reflect on what is it that you truly want to receive? What is it specifically that you want more of in your life? Is it love? Is it joy? Is it health? Is it poodles? Whatever it is that you want more of in your life, I want you to hold a vision of what it would feel like to have all that you desire. See if you can conjure up the feeling of having that which you desire. What would it feel like? And now I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to allow your mind to become still and just see what answer comes to you. The question is this: how have you freely received that already? So what we're going to do when you have become clear on what it is you wish to receive, when you have distilled it down to a word or two, I want you to take one of those markers, and we can pass them around. And I want you to write that word on this dollar. So whatever it is you want to receive, write that on this dollar. And if you're done with your marker, I'll grab them, make sure everybody's had a chance. Anybody need a marker? All done? I looked it up, not illegal. Anybody else need a marker? Okay, thank you. Markers. Did you get a marker? Okay, all right.
We have more markers here.
Oh, you do? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, does everybody have their word written on their dollar? Everyone's got it? Okay, so here's what you have to do. In the next 24 hours, I need every single person to find a way to give away that dollar. You do not get to frame it. You do not get to put it in your wallet. You do not get to buy something with it. In the next 24 hours, find a way to give that dollar away. In a way that represents at some level the word that you wrote on it. Okay? So think about it. You've got 24 hours, you've got a day, but that's not super long. So by, let's see, 11:15 tomorrow, before lunch on Monday, find a way to give that dollar away. And that is how we test the law of circulation and give away what we want to receive. I'll leave it up to you. Yeah. Feel what's going to really reflect that you're giving this freely and joyfully, and that it represents what you're trying to receive. All right. All right. I will see you in 2 weeks. Next week, Reverend Mindy Tucker will be right here talking about prosperity. And I hope that you guys have fun this month with our journey. Thank you for helping me practice give away what you want to receive.